And here's the thing. Do minority groups need safe spaces? 0344 499 1000. I just want to let you into a story here. So just bear with me while I tell you the story. So my partner came home on Sunday with the shopping. We normally go to Tesco, okay? For some reason, she'd been to Sainsbury's. She took one step into the door with her orange bags of doom, and I nearly lost the plot. The red mist began to gather in my mind as I computed her supermarket error. Why has she done this? Why is she making this statement? Was she unaware of the developing story? Did she not know who Laurence Fox was? I was having none of this, so here's what I did. I politely said, "Give me the bags." She gave me the bags. I grabbed the bags. I headed straight out of the door, into the car, and back to Sainsbury's. The supermarket giant were about to have 40 quid's worth of groceries unceremoniously returned to their shelves, and off I drove like something from Wacky Races, screeched into the car park, grabbed the bags with purpose, and made my way in. There was only one way to do this, frankly. I didn't have a placard. I didn't have a loud hailer, but I did have a frozen chicken. I delved into the grocery bag, yanked out this corn-fed beauty, and I stood there by aisle 7. I had a final look around, just checking the terrain, and then I assumed the position of a world 10-pin bowling champion. I eyed the chicken, I studied the aisle, I waited until a few kind of managerial suits appeared with clipboards, checking the shelves and chatting with other staff members about products and stock. And then I crouched into the launch position. Deep breaths, heart beating. And then I went for it. It was like something kind of in slow motion. I launched the 4-pound chicken straight down the aisle. The frozen beast gathered momentum from the off. It glided at speed across the polished floor, passing the shelves in some kind of blur. This thing was on a mission. Within moments, the shocking look of several Sainsbury's managers was a sight to behold as the ballistic chook neared its target. And it all happened so terribly quickly. Whack! 4 grown white men and a newly promoted trans woman were unceremoniously knocked into the air. The slow-mo vibe continues as the shocked staff eventually came down with a screaming thud, landing in a miserable pile. It was like a drunk game of Twister just by the Bovril. Job done. I took a deep breath, made my proclamation. Martin Luther King, I said, would be spinning in his grave, and I made off with haste. I heard one of them shout, "Do you want your chicken back?" No, I said, "Find a safe space for it." As I left the supermarket, I noticed something that started quietly but then got gradually louder. Shoppers beginning to clap as they parted, as I left. And then the clapping became a frenzied crescendo as I exited the store. The face of appreciation was absolutely obvious. I'm sure I heard one of them mutter, "You'll always be our Gandhi." Could be wrong. Then I was gone. Of course, none of this happened, but that is how I felt on Sunday when I read the news that Sainsbury's will be reviewing, firstly, its ethnic pay gap, there isn't one, by the way, as it honours Black History Month and highlights how it matters for the company. The popular supermarket said it's an inclusive retailer. The company said it will provide black colleagues with a safe space to gather in response to the Black Lives Matter movement. Isn't that extraordinary that a supermarket giant like Sainsbury's would even be aligning itself with a fairly extreme Trotskyite outfit that wants to get rid of the police as an obvious example? Isn't that just extraordinary? And quite what the thinking is behind it. Let's just park the fact, by the way, that as far as I can see, Sainsbury's has no black faces on its board of directors. I don't know about the management in the tier below, but my guess it's probably woeful. Let's just park the fact that the Qatari government is a major shareholder in Sainsbury's. I mean, we could examine that if you want to get into human rights and diversity. Try being a gay person in Qatar and see what happens. Does every black person live their life through their race? And I think that's perhaps what I found most offensive about this, of course, is the question that we've talked about many, many times. It's critical race theory. That's what it's all about. Critical race theory. It seems that someone at Sainsbury's HQ has been on one of those critical race theory courses. This is where an idiot with no qualifications tries to brainwash others into believing that they're a racist. In fact, they try to tell you that everything is racist in life. That's the whole point of the critical race industry. If you say you aren't, then frankly, it'll be thrown back at you as that being proof that you are. And it's not just you, it's all your family as well. All of your friends, the company you work for, the clothes you wear are racist, food is racist, cars are racist. Even if you, and this is the best one, this happens to be true in critical race theory, even if you were to admit that you thought you were a racist, the fact that you possess the privilege to even say it means that you're actually more of a racist. It is racist to admit you are racist. So someone over there at Sainsbury's HQ has been to the Premier League version of unconscious bias training, and they came up with a plan, scared witless to be accused of something. They came up with a plan just when you think you don't need to do this, because I don't know anybody, black or white, that thinks this kind of garbage is a good idea. So we're going to have safe spaces. You don't need to preen your whiskers. Nobody is accusing you of anything. So you're actively setting out to address a problem that doesn't exist. 0344 499 1000. And where, by the way, do you stop this? I mean, you can talk about their idea of having black spaces. They said that they wanted to address this, safe spaces to gather in response to Black Lives Matter. Now, they've now said these are virtual spaces, so I guess you go on some kind of collective Zoom call and talk to other colleagues who are non-white, and you chat about the issues that are concerning you. Do we have safe spaces for gay people? Do we have safe spaces just for men or just for women? Do we have safe spaces for the gammon fraternity who get angry about everything? A gammon space, that's what we need. Well, we know where that would be in the supermarket. At least we'd find it. 0344 499 1000. How did we arrive in this, frankly, curious place where we've begun creating arguments that previously simply didn't exist? Now, we know the issues of equality are very real, and striving for equality is noble. I don't know anybody that thinks otherwise. That's like asking, do you think it's best to be a nice person? Well, yes. I mean, the answer is obviously yes. And this is the problem with it. It's the mother of all cul-de-sacs. So will you, as a company, Sainsbury's and others, be more aware of potential unconscious bias when it comes to race? What are they meant to say to that? If they say no, it sounds terrible. If they say yes, frankly, it's just ridiculous, because it goes without saying they will be aware of those things. Safe spaces for people. And if I were non-white, if I was black, in this case, they are specifically, it seems, talking about black staff. I don't know whether they mean all non-white staff or whether they just mean black staff, people of an Afro-Caribbean lineage. I don't know quite who they're aiming this at. I would feel massively aggrieved by the idea that I can only exist through the prism of my racial identity. I've got no other way of defining myself. It couldn't be my good sense of humour. It couldn't be the fact that I'm quite bright. It couldn't be the fact that I'm good at my job. I have to define it and take all of my attributes and then feed them through the prism of my race. Now, that to me would be a massive insult. That's insult number one with critical race theory. Insult number two is the idea that every person of colour, every black person, thinks the same. That's the biggest, isn't it? Like phrases like the black community. Can you think of anything more bonkers than saying the white community? What is the white community, bozo? What is it? The white community. Am I part of the white community? I'm white. What is this community that I belong to? Because as far as I can ascertain, there's 100 gazillion types of people and ideas and thoughts and groupings. Community. So it kind of puts everybody in a similar box. It means that everybody supposedly has this same sense of either injustice or a sense of reform or feels the same sense of aggrievement. It's that where every non-white person seriously is. That's a massive insult. And secondly, it practices segregation, this. Thirdly, this is the most important point. It does the very opposite to what it sets out to achieve. And I mentioned Martin Luther King and my fictitious rant in Sainsbury's. Would be spinning in his grave? Absolutely. This is a guy that gave his entire life and paid with his life for his views on harmonisation and bringing people together. Dr. King would not be standing there on the mountaintop suggesting that, yeah, we want some equality, we want to be able to ride on the same buses, we want everything to be equal, but at the same time, we'd like a separate space over there. It flies straight in the face of the whole thing. And that's because critical race theory, of course, is an industry. It's a multi-million pound, possibly even billion-pound industry now. Do minority groups, whether it's about colour, religion, race, really need a safe space at work?